Hello world. The purpose of this video, and my first, is to encourage and offer hope to those of you out there who are afflicted with the curse of stuttering. It certainly is a curse. I couldn't say my own name. I remember showing a note to the lady behind the counter with 2 sausage rolls, please, written on it. I used to hit myself on the head and pinch myself on the thigh, hoping it would help me get my words out. I often didn't have a voice. I have stuttered and suffered due to it all my life. Now, in recent years, it has reduced significantly, and this is where I think I can offer you hope. Not that it will take you 61 years to reach the point of speech freedom like it has me. I think, in short, after years of thinking about it, it's all about self-confidence, or at least with me it has been. I was stripped of that as a young boy. I hope I can give someone watching some positive encouragement. I want to tell you my story, because I think it has so much to do with my speech problems. When I was in primary school, my mother first took me to see a speech pathologist. I have seen so many since. My stutter was a weird thing for me to understand. I had friends who didn't know I stuttered. I had friends who knew me as someone with a severe speech problem. While in primary school, I performed in plays. Used to get up in front of the school at assembly and perform a solo. I've always enjoyed singing. In my later teen years, I used to go around churches. My brother would play the piano and I would perform their Sunday night item. Was my stutter weird, or was I weird? In one situation, I was a stutterer, and in another, I was not. I couldn't speak to any members of my family without sounding like a retard. At least that's what I thought of myself. There have been incidences where I've been called that by others. I had a good friend in my youth, and he was a good friend. He was very understanding, but he considered I must have done something very wrong once that had subsequently left me with this severe speech impediment, a sort of divine punishment. I hated those who called me a retard, but I was amused at the ignorance of my friend. But I guess if people don't understand something, they find a label to attach or a reason to substantiate. I consider my studying was due to feeling less equal, inferior to others. I've been taught that well. If I was with someone or in a group I felt comfortable with, or in particular skylarking, showing off, my speech was cool. But if I had a reason to feel less than the people I was with, my speech was not understandable, so I would cower and hide inside myself. My family were horrible to me. My twin brother would mimic me until one day he began stuttering too. I derived a degree of perverse comfort from this. They would talk to me and behave as if I was a fool. My dad had a brother who was being committed, Uncle Don. Bear in mind, he may not have lived in a mental institution had he lived now. I understand that they'd lock anyone up who strayed a little from the norm back then. My mother and father would take delight in telling me how much like my Uncle Don I was. My mother had never met the man. My family consisted of a domineering mother, a father who was constantly verbally abused by her in front of all and sundry, even at church. I have an older brother who is 20 months older than me, as I've already said, a twin. When we were 3 and my eldest brother was 5, Mum and Dad adopted 2 Aboriginal girls, or 2 part Aboriginal girls, who happened to be 20 months apart and the same ages as us. All of a sudden, I had 2 sisters. We were a family of 5 overnight. When I was 10, Mum and Dad adopted another little part Aboriginal girl. I loved each of my sisters dearly and still do. Now we were a family of 6. I can't remember any of us ever being friends. My twin would shun my company. He'd throw stones back at me when I attempted to follow him to the library, a good mile from home. He hated being a twin, and he hated my guts. Why was that? Incidentally, none of my siblings are friends with one another. For me, not from lack of trying, they're just not interested. I've longed for a family all my life. Mum had been a missionary in India for 20 years. Dad had 2 sisters who were missionaries in India. They met on the ship to Australia and married when they arrived home in Sydney. They'd known each other 6 weeks. Dad was 42 and Mum was 36. I believe each was having their first sexual experience. Dad wanted company. Mum wanted someone to provide her with an institution, just like where she had worked on the mission field. Mum, religion has been the ruin of many. Mum would say to us children, men only want to use women as a latrine. Mum did not like men. She would enjoy calling me nasty names, like a braggart. Years later, I looked it up and wasn't at all surprised that I found it had a pretty stuffed up meaning. She'd say I wasn't a man's backside. She'd say, you aren't man enough to kill yourself. I suffered pretty badly from depression. One of the part Aboriginal girls and I suffered emotional and physical abuse at the hands of my mother and twin. I can remember Mum dragging my sister by the hair up and down the hallway, cursing her the whole time she was doing it. I can remember Mum force-feeding my sister regurgitated porridge. And she wasn't at all nice about how she shoved that metal spoon into her mouth, clashing on her teeth. I can remember my twin brother stomping on my sister's head, with all the family standing around in a circle, egging him on. We had a goddamn terrible childhood. The sister I just referred to passed away last year, a chronic alcoholic and tormented soul. Talk about a stunted childhood. I left school in year 10, then called 4th form, the day my turn came up to present a speech in front of the class. I just couldn't do it. I was petrified. In fear of what Mum would say, I walked the bush between home and school until it was time for school to finish. I pretended I was attending school for a week or so before I concocted a story to tell my mother. I did a lot of bushwalking that week. I got a job and did my school certificate at Hamilton Evening College each day after work. I received good marks, so I steeled myself and returned to high school the following year, only to do the same again when one day I was required to do another presentation to the class. in front of kids I'd known all my life. You'd think I would have been at least comfortable with them. I never really made a go at employment. I'd go from one job to the other, never content with the choices I had made. I was, for much of my life, a stuttering, nervous wreck. I remember clearly, I didn't even categorise myself as a man until a few short years ago. How sad is that? I didn't think I was gay, or rather, I didn't think I was a woman. I thought I was nothing. Back when I was 19, I went to see a fancy psychologist in Newcastle, the head of Shortland Clinic, Trevor Waring. I saw him on several occasions after work, and it didn't take long for him to advise me to move out of home, away from that terrible woman, he would say. He videotaped me and used it for his class of speech therapists to view at Newcastle Uni. On one or more than one occasion at social functions, people would come up to me saying they recognised me from somewhere, but couldn't put their finger on it. Later, toward the end of the evening, they'd come to me and tell me, "Oh, you were the guy I saw in that I saw in a video at Newcastle Uni." It didn't embarrass me or make me feel poorly. I don't think it made me feel important, but you see, when I'd take something I had made to show my mother, she told me to go away and stop showing off. I don't remember ever being coddled by her, and definitely not Dad. Freedom finally came when I moved to Newcastle, and that was only as a result of a disabling motorcycle accident I had at 24. I couldn't move away from Mother. I didn't have the courage. She wanted me to. She even resorted to writing me a letter, which she popped under my pillow. But you know the syndrome where a woman is abused and stays with her abuser in fear she can't make it out there on her own? I was suffering from that. As a result, I have sought validation and others' opinions on just about anything I have ever done. Many people see this as I'm always wanting a pat on the back. But no, I'm wanting them to say, "You did well," or "You should have unpicked that and started again." I'm just after assurance that my efforts at whatever I've done have been accepted. Incidentally, Mum and Dad have both passed away. I wouldn't be doing this video if they were still here. I wouldn't want to hurt them. In closing, when I finally felt comfortable in my own skin, my speech began to be so much better. One day, I remember it well. Driving down the road, I suddenly saw myself integrated, part of the whole world around me. That did the trick. I encourage you to find that contentment and comfort. You are a nice person. You are just as good as anyone else. In general, people do want your company and are interested in what you have to say. Be nice to others. People are great and actually want to accept you. And again, in general, they do want to like you. Don't make my mistake and fall in with the wrong crowd. They will always accept a lost soul. Find yourself and get comfy in your own skin. If you are a parent, be good to your children. You are shaping their lives. You have a massive responsibility. Try to do your best. Please subscribe, like and comment. It will give me encouragement to do another. Bye-bye.